Welcome to this EDU224 Personal Philosophy of Education presentation by Harry Williams B1905239. All images on this presentation are CC0 compliant. The EDU224 module has presented us with a variety of philosophies, some of which include issues that I hadn't even considered. That's why when we were asked to consider our own educational ideology, I knew it wasn't going to be a straightforward answer. When writing the first part of this assessment, I found myself agreeing with different segments of each ideology, not just fitting into one category. However, this is what I found the most interesting about the module. Everybody who views education will have their own opinions on its arrangement, and it's these new, exciting ideas that help progress education. Therefore, I am going to reflect on the content that we have learned during this module and put together what my ideal educational ideology would look like, including the educational structure, the nature of learning, the ideal classroom, assessment types, and the need for outdoor learning. Matheson notes educational ideology is any package of educational ideas held by a group of people about formal arrangements for education. However, before discussing educational formal arrangements, to me it is important that I consider what the purpose of education is for. This module has covered a variety of ideologies to do with the purpose, from individualists and the idea of education being for an individual, to functionalists who argued the purpose of education being for the benefit of society. I find myself somewhere in the middle of this. Isaacs, who reviewed the work of Montessori, noted that Montessori believed that the child was at the centre of the learning process and relied on the environment around them and less on the teacher to learn through an atmosphere they found mentally stimulating. Being on placement, I have witnessed Montessori's thinking firsthand. I observed that children are naturally inquisitive, who take pleasure from exploring the world around them, which when combined with a knowledge-rich environment can lead to high levels of self-development. To build on this, Bodrova reviewed the work of Vygotsky, who theorized that children who interact with a stimulating environment develop higher levels of self-regulation at a younger age. Whilst I agree that the learning benefits the individual and has benefits for early development, I also consider the fact that education does serve a purpose of preparing people to fit into society. Gerber believes that schools have a necessary role in preparing students for the challenges that come with life, as well as why these challenges happen and how they can draw on their skills learnt at school to handle them. To me, children must become prepared for life and learn skills that are valuable to them, rather than teaching subjects or an area of the curriculum which they may never use again. Robinson also discusses the notion that the education system teaches children to unlearn their creative skills that could be employed in the modern world, something which I agree happens. Drawing on personal experience, there have been times when my previous educators have told me I shouldn't focus on my creative skills, instead focusing on skills the institution deems superior. Teaching children to think like this suppresses creativity and, to me, forces children to take academic routes which do not benefit them. Therefore, to me, the purpose of education is to put the needs of the individual first, allowing them to explore all areas of the curriculum and to do that exploration in a mentally stimulating environment, whilst also showing the individual the benefits and the applications their learning has after education. One of the most impressive sections of the EDU224 module to me was that of the Montessori classroom. I didn't realise such an idea existed. However, after learning about it, I found myself fully subscribing to the idea. Montessori classrooms are based on the notion that learning is child-centered, with learning happening when the child goes at their own pace. The children learn valuable skills such as respect, concentration, and independence, with the children experiencing the freedom to learn within limits. This is why, in my ideology, I would take inspiration from the Montessori schools, designing a knowledge-rich environment where the children are free to explore learning as they go. The classroom would include toys, books, or any sensory objects designed to inspire the creativity and inquisitive nature of a child. In my opinion, allowing a child the freedom to explore the purpose of an object for themselves will only deepen the interest of that object, as they have chosen it out of their own free will, not being forced into learning. This is supported by Isaacs, who comments first-hand experience provides rich sensory learning for the child. This is the approach I would take in the early years foundation key stage 1 area, because according to the work of Vygotsky, children develop higher levels of self-regulation when placed in a sensory-rich environment at a young age. As the children get older, I believe it's imperative that they understand the benefits that their learning has to society. This is why I would take inspiration from Gerber and the Grangestrom project, where children still partake in the Montessori principle of a sensory environment, but they start to pair this with the workings of society. Within the Grangestrom project, children work together to open shops, create radio stations, and even elect a town mayor, applying teamwork skills, confidence, and logic to their work. This draws back to the skills that children learn within the Montessori approach. However, it now shows them how to apply them in a real-world setting. By combining the Montessori teachings, as well as showing children how to use them in their adult lives, I would argue makes for a sensible and successful education. Children can leave school feeling confident in their ability and are able to tackle the majority of scenarios thrown at them with logic and reasoning. This view on a successful education is one also agreed by Gerber, who comments, "Education must surely be to prepare our children for successful lives as adult citizens." So far, this presentation has explored my ideal classroom and the reasoning behind this. However, as much as I believe that a sensory environment is vital for a child's development, so do I believe that outdoor learning is of equal importance. I am a strong believer that education does not finish at the end of the school day, but that learning continues outside the classroom as well. This is why I believe the Forest Schools project is of importance. It has been noted that children associate the classroom with a high level of pressure. However, moving the learning to an outside environment helps alleviate these feelings. Moving education outdoors also introduces an element of risk to an individual's education, which actually benefits their learning. Guvella et al. Review the work of Senninger, who theorized that in order for an individual to learn, they must move out of their comfort zone into an area of risk. It is here that the individual will explore their limits and make the most of the learning process. Senninger does additionally theorize, however, that if an individual is pushed too hard, they may enter the panic zone, an area where no learning had happened due to the anxiety that comes with the unknown. I find myself agreeing with Senninger. If children are presented with a new opportunity for learning, their naturally inquisitive nature should take over, allowing for unique learning opportunities. Coates and Wilson describe the Forest Schools agenda as a means of becoming accustomed to different ways of learning. The next part of this presentation is going to look at the role of the assessment in my ideology. Assessment in terms of education can normally be viewed in two forms, formative and summative. Dixon and Worrell define formative assessment as a low-stakes type of assessment as a way of providing informal feedback to either the student or teacher that does not hold any significance in relation to a grade. Summative assessment is a high-stakes form of assessment, often used as a way of recording a student's learning progress. This is usually done in the form of an exam or test, which produces a final grade. Tate reviews A-level examination, a high-stakes form of assessment. Tate explains that high-stakes examinations such as A-levels restricts the ability for creative thinking, as the exams often require a specific answer, not a viewpoint. Tate argues that this leads to the production of individuals who are taught to repress their creative mind, something which he explains could hinder them in the job market. This is also the view of Robinson, who comments, I believe this passionately, that we don't grow into creativity, we grow out of it, or rather, we get educated out of it. As Tate argues, I believe that creativity is what sets people apart, offering unique ways of tackling situations otherwise unthought of. It is my belief that educating people under the same examination when every mind offers a unique perspective is wrong. When a high-stakes assessment provides grades based on what they deem as correct, this also potentially hinders individuals as they might not achieve the required grade that was needed of them, or more so what the test asked of them. The notion that the same test will work for everyone to me seems outdated. This is why I prefer the use of academic portfolios. Virgin and Balke comment portfolio grading focuses on both the learning process as well as the quality of the product, which I believe offers a chance for the individual to express their creativity, which also delivers a quality product. Each product would be unique, showing the observer the learning journey the student has been on. As every learning experience is different, I believe this would better reflect the academic success of a student, rather than an examination that grades everyone under the same circumstance. Miller and Morgaine would also agree with this, stating portfolios provide a rich resource for both students and faculties to learn about the achievement of important outcomes over time. Thank you for listening to my ideology on education. The module has taught me to view education differently to how I previously would have, allowing me to view different perspectives on education. While this ideology is my own belief, I understand that everybody will have their own ideas on the structure of education, and it is my belief, as mentioned at the start of this presentation, that education can only progress when people come together and share their own opinions on the purpose of education, hopefully leading to a system that works for everyone.